Hey everyone, I'm Jaren Agbanawag, and we are talking about Halloween Kills. The story picks up directly where we left off in the last one, the same night of Halloween 2018, and Michael Myers has survived the fire, he is pissed, and he's going on a rampage. And the town of Haddonfield just won't stand for it, so they are gathering a big group together, and they are hunting him down. Now, I'm a big Michael Myers fan. I've watched every single one of his movies religiously, and I mean, come on. He's just a character that I grew up watching, and even though he scared the shit out of me. Due to the pandemic, the movie got pushed back for over a year, so you can imagine how impatient I was, how very excited and stoked that I finally got to sit down in the theater this past week and enjoy the film. And I gotta say, this new David Gordon Green trilogy of Halloween has become the new J.J. Abrams Star Wars trilogy. Now, I hate saying this, but watching Halloween Kills was like watching Star Wars The Last Jedi. And that's kind of bad, and at the same time, it's not necessarily terrible. There are significant things to like about this movie. There are atrocious things to point out in this movie. Out of the 12 installments in the franchise, this is not the worst one. Yes, I'm talking to you, Part 5. Right off the bat, in the very beginning of the movie, James Jude Courtney has captured the rage, the mannerisms of Michael Myers. He just plays it down to a T. I even love the mask this time around, even though it's just a little burnt, but they didn't burn it too much. All the kill scenes were a lot more bloodier, gorier, and much more brutal than the last movie. That, hell, it even just made me a little more squeamish than the Rob Zombie ones. And to add on to that, I think he had the highest kill count in this particular installment than the previous films. The flashbacks that they had of the 1978 Halloween was kind of weird, but at the same time very interesting because they somehow pulled it off. This goes with Michael Myers' mask looking exactly how it did that night of, as well as just some of the costume design, as well as like the actors' hairdo. It was just interesting because it felt like I was watching a deleted scene from the first movie. Some of the information that is presented on screen also deepens the lore of Michael Myers, but at the same time, it does stem from some of the influences that we've seen in the previous sequels, but are not necessarily canon because Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills are only following the original 1978 film. Now, I'm going to get into some nitpicks. I wouldn't necessarily call them negatives because I do have a few positive things to say about them, but at the same time, I wish that I could tweak some of these things that happened. Now, going back to why I said this movie was like Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I will tell you why, and it's because it felt like a bridged film. It felt like a filler episode. The one movie to get across to the ending because this is a David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy. Even though technically this would be 3, and then there's going to be 4 next year, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that there's no real story. This movie is an extension of Halloween 2018. Like, it's bloody, it's violent, yes. I mean, it's kind of like how Star Wars is, there's some amazing action scenes, some lightsaber battles and whatnot, but nothing advances in the story. Like, we are just seeing a continuation. I mean, even Halloween 2 had more to offer. Like, I'm talking about Halloween 2, the 1981. That had a little more to offer to the story, but this, not so much. The next thing, I wouldn't say this is completely negative because it wasn't the movie's fault. It was the marketing, it was the trailer people's fault. But Jamie Lee Curtis is not the main character. She is benched for the whole movie. And even when she does have her scenes from the trailer, she got stabbed in the stomach from the first film, I mean, I know she shoots that adrenaline in the trailer, but I mean, she wasn't about to go out on the same night and go take on Michael by herself. Like, that's just crazy talk. And I'm glad that they kind of kept it to realism because she can only do so much after being stabbed. I mean, yeah, but, she's not the main character of the movie. She barely had the spotlight, but I mean, maybe we'll see more of her in the next one. I also thought it was interesting to see a dynamic where in Halloween 2018, she was kind of cut off from her community. And in this, you actually get to see her community have her back. We were blessed with the presence of the legacy characters from the 1978 film, which include Sheriff Brackett, Nurse Marion, Lonnie, Lindsay Wallace, and Tommy Doyle. And Tommy Doyle is actually the more main focus character of the movie. You know, he gathers the mob together. He's just riling the whole town up. I gotta say, at a few times I was kind of irritated because he was overusing the line, "Evil dies tonight." Huh, take a shot every time you hear that one. And you see, one of the unfortunate things about the script is that they didn't utilize all of these characters to their full potential. They felt like cameos. That being said, I did enjoy some of the references, some of the callbacks, especially some one-liners that really stuck out from the original film and got to present here, especially also seeing where our characters were at and how they were doing. And this also includes some of the characters and how they were affected from the 2018 film, even though it was kind of like moments before. And it's kind of weird that this movie also made me feel for some characters that I didn't think I would actually care for. Like, there's even a small moment where that obnoxious kid from the last movie, Oscar, you know, even though his body is right there on the slab, they have a small moment where his mom comes in and she is just wailing at the death of her son. I'm like, oh my god, this is kind of heartbreaking. And that's the thing with Halloween Kills, is that they still make you care, because even though this movie does have a higher body count, a lot of that body count does stem from the people that we're already established with. Like, we're not just watching a movie where Michael is going on a random killing spree of horny teenagers and people making bad decisions. Well, I take that back. There were some terrible decisions that were made. And again, I'm going to go back to the script. It makes me kind of upset, and I know why they have to make these kind of decisions, or why the results are the way they are. And it's because sometimes they could have the drop, or they can have an upper advantage against Michael. Like, there is a scene where there's like 2-3 people with guns, and they just don't know how to handle themselves, or people really suck at shooting guns in this movie. But somehow Michael just somehow gains the upper hand again and just dispatches them, just totally kills them and just takes them out. And I'm like, bro, this movie could have ended right here. But I mean, what fun would that be, right? But at the same time, it's just so annoying at how these characters just suck. Speaking of decision making, there is one part in the middle of the film where it really drags out the runtime, and this is that hospital sequence, and it will make or break a lot of viewers because that scene was kind of bullshit. That part was definitely unnecessary. That should have been left on the cutting room floor, but I mean, I guess you got to fill out that hour and 46 minutes, right? Now, the positive thing that I took away from that particular sequence is the mob mentality, the social commentary, and how fear controls people, and how kind of crazy and chaotic it could be, especially with a lot of false information that we are given, and we are forced to make decisions that we normally wouldn't, but out of panic, out of impulse, we would, and they have consequences. It is a messy narrative, and so I think a lot of viewers will be divided by this film. There are the fans who have stuck with this film since the original, so they know everything. And then there is the people who are going to see this movie who have never seen a Michael Myers film in their life. They just want some cheap Halloween thrills. It would be very offbeat because there are a lot of moments where the movie's like winking at you, like, you remember we're making references, callbacks, and these nice little trinkets from the original film now, you remember? And then there's repeated lines, repeated information, and reoccurring flashbacks and images that are kind of spoon-fed to the audience, which is like very dumbed down and talked down at. There was just copious amounts of exposition that overstayed its welcome, and I was just like, can we get on with the next kill? This is getting annoying. Going back to Michael Myers, the true star of this movie, like, he makes carnage candy. He makes every kill count, and I gotta say, the boy's got a sense of humor. It's so vile and impressive, because even when they come across the dead bodies later on in the movie, like, he displays them in a way where it's like, it's kind of funny, it's kind of tragic, and it's it's kind of sentimental. There was this awkward sequence with Michael towards the end of the movie that felt very quick-cutty, felt very slow motion-esque, while Jamie Lee Curtis is doing her kind of closing speech, and it just felt kind of weird. It felt awkward, and it didn't work for me. Like, by the time the credits rolled, I was just kind of, huh? I know I've expressed my frustrations about this movie, but I do have to remember that this is a part 2 out of 3 in the David Gordon Green trilogy. Next year, we're going to get Halloween Kills. That's the big finale. That's the big showdown. I'm sure it's going to be great. But I just hate how a lot of franchises do this, where we got to have that stepping stone. We got to have that one particular movie to get across. And whatever. And I just didn't think that Halloween Kills was going to be one of those type of movies. But, I mean, kind of looking at it, the Halloween franchise isn't necessarily perfect. We have started the movies over and over again, following different paths and timelines that it does get a little confusing to keep up with. But it is not as confusing as the X-Men timeline. Alright guys, that's all I gotta say about Halloween Kills. Michael Myers, I'll see you next year, but I didn't regret going to the theater for it. I'm sure a lot of you are probably gonna stream it on Peacock or whatever, find it online, but the theater experience was still worth it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews. I am Jaren, and I will see you guys at the movies. Okay, bye.